And so we passed the inspection for the vapor barrier and insulation. We can proceed with our next step, which is the drywall. I only have like a half day today, so I'm not sure I'm gonna get into that because there are a few things that I do have to do in preparation. There's a few pieces of blocking I forgot about, as well as some strapping details that I still have to do. So make sure we get those done, do a couple other small things, so when drywall time does come, we can go full steam ahead with that. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure all the strapping is ready to go, and you can see that I do have all the strapping installed. Give you a quick look like this. So before I installed the vapor barrier, I snapped lines at 16" on center for my strapping, and then I could just run it once the vapor barrier was on. I could still see my lines. So that went up fairly quickly. But now what I have to do, there's two ways I could go about doing this, and I chose this way just to save a little bit on the strapping. So you can see I just butted in the strapping wherever it landed. There's an example. I could have brought this piece to this joist and fastened it, but there's a bit of waste that way. And now I'll grab a scrap piece of strapping, put it up in behind that, screw it together so I can tie those two pieces together. In case there is any movement or warping of the strapping, they'll move together, not separately, and it won't cause any issues to my drywall. There's a bunch of blocks. That's a full piece of strapping. Okay. Again, I'm not as concerned about doing every single one. It's more when there's a break and there's a lot of flex. Like this piece here is flexing quite a bit, and it's actually a little warped, so it's bowing. So if I can just tie those together, so if there is any movement, it will hopefully help just prevent any cracks in my drywall or any screw pops. Another thing I'm considering too is that because we got this strapping in two separate orders from two different places, the first batch that we did get was just a bunch of, or there were a bunch of randomized pieces, like singular pieces. And so when you try and combine those together, whether it's old stock or whether it's different stock altogether, or whether the pile has just been picked through at the store and you're left with the worst pieces when you do pick just one piece, the issue that can happen there is that you come against some really twisted, gnarly looking pieces. So there's a lot more variables rather when you buy them in a bundle, which this whole side, the whole opposite side, was done with two bundles that were packaged nicely, so you know they were milled together, you know they came from the same store, you know that they weren't just the worst pieces set aside. Whereas some of this side of the building, it's a little bit of mixed match. It's more likely that the wood will expand, contract, twist, dry, all at different rates. So for those pieces, I want to make sure that they're tied together a little more so they do move together. This is what else I have to do as well that goes along with preparing for drywall, is making sure I've put catches everywhere the drywall might hang loosely. Like for here, for example, I'll put a piece of strap in here, but it's just good practice to have something to screw into to make sure your drywall is secure, so taping goes easier, so mudding goes easier. So I'll just screw this piece on. And that does it for the miscellaneous strapping. Everything's tied together that should be, and I've blocking everywhere I should have it. Now the only thing I have to do in preparation for drywall is cut back my spray foam insulation, which I think I already showed in a previous video. But we did that top up, that second coat of spray foam on the larger gaps. So I'll make sure to cut that off, trim it back so it doesn't interfere with my drywall. And then at that point, we're just gonna be prolonging the inevitable of drywall, the ceiling. And that's that. All the trimming of the spray foam insulation is done. It's not quite as late as I thought. That didn't take too long doing all that small stuff. So I do have a few hours left on the day I can put in. I think what I'll do with that is set up for drywall. That way I'm all ready to go when I start, probably tomorrow I think. I'll be coming back up. So I'll just get my tools ready, set up the lift, and maybe prep a few sheets or something. Opens up like this. Then there's the lift assembled. Pretty basic. Pick up your piece, set it on these feet. In my case, I'm gonna need these arms stretched out, maxed, because I have 12-foot pieces. So I'm actually gonna measure this and see what the span is. I think it's probably 10. Yeah, it's about 9.5 feet. So I have a bit of overhang. That's okay. I just want to see how high I can lift this. So I'll bring my piece, set it on here, flip it up like this, bring those arms down, depending on which way I install it. And then I guess for here I'm actually only, because I'm running the sheets perpendicular to the strapping long ways, my actual lift will be, well, in the center of the sheet, which brings me to the center of the ceiling. So I'm actually not going that full 12 feet with it extended like I for some reason thought I was. So this should be able to reach no problem. It's just a matter of how much flex will be where the arms are, because with only one person and I try and screw that flex into the strapping, there's a good chance those screws will rip out. So hopefully there's not too much flex in the sheet and it's not drooping too much, and I will be able to pin it onto the strapping with no issues. But that could be a potential thing I run into. And then the other thing is, does that arm pivot on an angle? It does not. Does it? Darn. I didn't really think of that. If this part would match the angle of the ceiling, if it pivots at all. Taking a closer look, there is a pin in a slotted groove that enables it to move a little bit. So I've maxed it out now. As you can see, it looks pretty good, but we are probably pretty close to almost 3 inches not being able to get that angle with that maxed out. So there's probably a couple solutions. It might change a little bit once I have the weight of a full 12-foot piece of drywall on there. Like I'm kind of wondering if just adding a couple shims to those arms to get that extra 3 inches would be worth it, or even just make up a prop that can pin this top while the lift holds the actual weight of the drywall or something. So probably a few options. Regardless, it's set up, ready to go for when I do start. That's going to do it for today. We did all the preparation that needed to be done for the drywall stage, which will be the next video. But as for this one, it's over. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.